Watch the insane thing that happened live on set. The second Nancy Pelosi is asked if she's holy. If you're familiar at all with the political history of Nancy Pelosi, you probably have wondered if there's something supernatural about her rise to power and the causes that she champions. She holds the highest office that a woman has ever held in this country, and she's not ashamed of how she got there. We were surprised to find out though that her background was one steeped in religion, coming from a devout Catholic family that had some pretty different goals for their baby girl. Apparently, all they wanted was for her to be a good Christian and live a holy life. We're not sure what they'd say about her current condition and accomplishments, but we can see what America thinks about it. During an in-depth profile about the highest-ranking woman in the United States, the question was posed as to whether she thinks that she accomplished the lofty goals that her parents set for her. What happened next seemed a bit divine, whether through forces of good or evil. There was a technical difficulty with the video feed. And no, we can't make this stuff up. Via the Gateway Pundit. On Tuesday, KTVU sat down for a one-on-one interview with Nancy Pelosi, DCA, to discuss the House Minority Leader's family, faith and thoughts on today's political climate. However, something bizarre occurred during the interview. KTVU experienced a technical difficulty as the reporter asked Pelosi if she is holy. As Pelosi responds, the feed cuts to a weather report. Perhaps a sign from God? See for yourself. Without further ado, let's pop our popcorn and watch the House Minority Leader and liberalist of the Liberal Democrats talking about her spiritual life. Via Fox's KTVU. Nancy Pelosi is a San Francisco institution. Loved by many, scorned by others, there's no denying her political acumen and success. She was first elected to Congress 30 years ago and climbed her way through the political power structure to become Speaker of the House, achieving the highest political office ever held by a woman in this country. How did she get there and where did she come from? KTVU's Ken Wayne sat down with Congresswoman Pelosi for a one-on-one interview. Nancy Pelosi grew up in Baltimore, Maryland to a devout Catholic, Italian-American, Sikh family. Her father was a member of Congress. They were fiercely patriotic and staunchly Democratic. She was raised to believe that public service was calling. Nancy Pelosi met her husband in Washington, D.C., while she was at Trinity College and he was at Georgetown University. They moved to San Francisco in 1969 where they raised their 5 children and she began her political career. Democrats faced a tough loss in 2016. It's no surprise that Pelosi is front and center in the party's effort to regain control of the House. She remains optimistic in her fight for issues important to California. If you're wondering how a 70-something is working circles around most people half her age, you're not alone. So many have wondered it in fact, that her tenure in Washington has become the subject of some pretty interesting dialogue among those who've worked with and for her, as well as reporters. Via The Atlantic. Washington attracts a unique breed of workaholics and obsessives, but even among this atypical sample set, Nancy Pelosi is a striking case. The stories about her seemingly inexhaustible reserves of energy are legion. Brian Wolf, a former executive director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, recalls planning a cross-country swing headlined by Pelosi to whip up support and money in the final weeks of the 2006 midterms. Wolf, like any reasonable person, included some free time in Pelosi's hellish itinerary. I remember when we were walking through this extensive schedule, meeting to meeting, campaign event to campaign event, he told me. She looked at me and said, "I don't do downtime." Brendan Daly, Pelosi's former communications director, remembers getting a call from Pelosi on the day before Christmas one year. The Chinese government had just released the famous dissident and Pelosi wanted to issue a statement. Daly was in the middle of baking cookies with his kids. "It's Christmas Eve," he protested. Pelosi replied, "The dissidents haven't been celebrating Christmas." Daly wrote the statement. George Miller, the former California congressman, told me about a routine he'd developed to deal with Pelosi's habit of calling at strange hours. As Pelosi's lieutenant in the House, Miller was expected to be reachable on his cell phone at almost any time when Congress was in session. But Miller, as a human, needed sleep, so before he went to bed, he poured himself a glass of water and placed it on his nightstand. That way, when Pelosi called after he'd fallen asleep, he could bolt upright, chug some water, clear his throat, and sound as if he'd been wide awake and hard at work. "My job wasn't to be asleep," he told me. We still don't know what causes this fixture on Capitol Hill to have the stamina and work ethic that does reek a little of otherworldly influence, but it's seriously doubtful that her strength is coming from above. Considering her history with the Democratic Party and shady business deals, it's more likely that her patron would hail from somewhere a little hotter. I'd like to point out that she didn't specify who she was praying to when she prays for the president. Food for thought. Source: The Gateway Pundit. Share if you're ready for Pelosi to end her political career and go home. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe Breaking News 365 channel. Goodbye and see you again.